You know how sometimes you hear a story that just clicks? It totally reframes how you see something you thought you had all figured out, like success. Well, today we're going to dive into one of those ideas. It was sparked by this single, really powerful story that might just change the way you think about the whole path to achievement.
Okay, so it all kicks off with the story of a startup founder. Picture this, a super passionate entrepreneur, but his journey is just going absolutely nowhere fast. Until that is, one completely random, totally unexpected day.
So for 3 long years, this guy was basically keeping his company alive on fumes. I mean, the seed money? Gone. The product had potential, sure, but nothing was really breaking through. Think about that. 3 years of grinding, of intense work, and all it got him was pretty average results. And then, this past June, on a totally random flight, he has this chance encounter. Just one conversation. That leads to a pilot order. And that one single order, it just opened the floodgates. Now today, he's on track to raise a massive Series A round. Crazy, right?
Okay, let's just pause right there. Seriously, what really changed? It wasn't like he suddenly got 10 times smarter overnight, right? He didn't come up with some brilliant new strategy in his sleep. The inputs, the hard work, the skill, they were pretty much the same for those 3 long years. The thing that changed, that invisible multiplier, was something else entirely, something we almost always forget to account for.
And that story, it's the perfect doorway into a much bigger idea. It's about this cognitive trap that, honestly, we all fall into. We can call it the success myth. And it's all about those neat, tidy little stories we tell ourselves after the fact, once we already know how things turned out.
You know, our brains just love a good story. We crave these neat, tidy narratives. So when a company totally crushes it, what do? The world rushes in to explain exactly why it happened. We point to the genius strategy, the visionary leadership, and we write these glowing case studies that make the whole thing seem like it was inevitable, like it was always destined to happen.
But this is where that whole neat story starts to fall apart. We tell ourselves it was a genius strategy. But the unseen reality, the part we never talk about, for every single person who made it big with that strategy, there are probably 10, maybe 100 others who tried the exact same playbook and failed miserably. We just never hear their stories, do we? Because we only celebrate the survivors. The ones who are skilled for sure, but also incredibly lucky.
And this flawed way of thinking, this trap, it actually has a name. It's called survivorship bias. It's this huge logical error we make when we focus only on the people or things that survived, the winners, and we base all our conclusions on them. And in the process, we completely ignore that massive, silent graveyard of everyone else who didn't make it. So if the old story is basically a myth, what's the real one? Well, this brings us to a much more accurate, much more, honest framework for understanding success. Let's call it the luck equation. At its very core, the equation couldn't be simpler. Success isn't just about your talent, your hustle, your hard work. No, it's the outcome of your skill plus the undeniable, often huge influence of luck. But wait, it gets even better. The Nobel Prize winner, the brilliant psychologist Daniel Kahneman, he took this equation and added a second line that changes everything. He said, success equals skill plus luck, but great success, that equals a little more skill and a lot more luck. Let that sink in for a second. For those massive world-changing successes we all look up to, luck isn't just a tiny ingredient. It's a massive, massive multiplier.
And this idea is especially true in what experts call low-validity domains. Now that sounds complicated, but it's not. Just think of fields like entrepreneurship or investing, where there's no foolproof recipe for success. It's the total opposite of something like baking a cake, right? Where if you follow the instructions, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a cake. In these super unpredictable fields, the connection between your effort and the final result can be, surprisingly weak.
Okay, so if luck is that important, what are we supposed to do? Just sit around and wait for lightning to strike? Of course not. And this brings us to the most important part of all this, the practical stuff, how you can actually start making your own luck.
All right, first things first, we have to throw out that old advice. The real edge, the real secret sauce, isn't about just imitating the habits of successful people. Why? Because of that survivorship bias we just talked about. Trying to copy what they did is a totally flawed strategy, because you can copy their actions, but you can't copy their luck.
So what's the better approach? Well, here's a new kind of playbook. Number 1, you have to design your own experiments. Stop trying to follow someone else's map. Number 2, actively test your assumptions. See what works, what doesn't, and use that feedback to get smarter and sharpen your own judgment. And number 3, and this might be the most important one of all, just stay in the game. You have to stay in the game long enough for luck to have a chance to find you. Think of it like this. Your persistence creates a bigger target for serendipity to hit. And all of this leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. It shows us that success isn't just about working harder or being smarter. It's about how you structure your work and even your life to invite those chance opportunities in. So the question I want to leave you with is this: are you making room for luck?